All right, come join Kyle, John, and David as they go through what's on the playlist. Find out what's everyone's favourite at Chicken Soup for the Soul Entertainment. We have a few segments, to be honest. In and out points, no celebs and the gossip. Back in time where we're talking about the big M's, coming attractions, what the queue. Quick checks, who'll be laughing? You abundantly. Welcome to Dual Redundancy.
Yes, welcome to Dual Redundancy, the only podcast we can hear all latest in television, entertainment, news, and too many else with exactly the same opinions. I'm one of the hosts, Stephen Allen, and another one is
John Berwick, and the third one is
Kyle Bridger. I would say that I'm the Flamin Hot to John's White House plumber because he's the fixer in this operation. And Dave, you're just Bupkis.
Bupkis.
I'm doing as good as a job as they did, apparently.
That's true. That's true tonight. We're 2 minutes in, and already I'm seeing the issues. I'm seeing the wear and tear.
It's been a few weeks.
Yes, but we're back tonight. We're talking about all three of those properties. We got a bunch of segments tonight. We have this first one, which I can't remember what it is. John, what is it?
In and out points.
It is in and out points. And our first one, it could have been a what the cue, but I won't do that to John. I won't surprise him like that. It's an in and out point tonight. It's day 13 of the Writers Guild strike. And we discussed last week in our kind of brainstorm session when we came up with the new DR film, The Space Club, which is taking the internet by storm, that one of the issues that the WGA really wants rules and terms about is AI, artificial intelligence. And that's just not just the writers, but also the other guilds as well. The DGA, the Directors Guild, SAG-AFTRA, the Screen Actors Guild. They're just two of the other guilds with potential to strike in the coming months. And the latter branch, the SAG Guild here, is flagging contracts for individual jobs in which studios appear to use their voices to generate new performances. I believe Kyle sent me this story this week, and I saw that a recent Netflix contract went a bit viral when it sought to grant the company free use of simulation of an actor's voice, quote, by all technologies and processes now known or hereafter developed throughout the universe and in perpetuity. So in other words, we own you.
I like how they specified throughout the universe, like some aliens are gonna come bring like, oh, you can clone a vocal box here. And it's like, oh, it wasn't built on this earth. You can't use it. Like,
you got
check your contract.
Yeah. Anything that we know now or developed anytime after, on Earth, in the universe, in perpetuity, forever, and all of time, we own it.
No other dimensions, though. You're safe from that.
Any multiverses? Could we, if it's okay in Earth 22, I don't know.
Hire your multiverse to be your voice actor for this. This.
Oh my God! I mean, this is pretty much the language. It reminds me of the Nathan For You skit when he's like, it's like, yeah, we own your voice, photograph, DNA for cloning purposes. Like, it's like, oh, you want to sign up? I guess, I have to, but what do you think that what Netflix is doing here, Kyle?
I mean, I don't think any sane agent would ever sign for an agreement like that, but I don't know if they're, I don't know if this is a contract for like the main players or even like background actors or secondary actors. Maybe they would sign something like that just because they want a job or whatever. But I don't think any agent would actually sign a contract like this because, it just takes all their likeness away from them. They lose ownership of themselves. And then the minute that AI is out there, it's out there. There's no coming back from it. You know what I mean? So,
we might be in trouble too. I mean, with the amount of our voices out on the internet, we might be out of a job. AI is going to do an episode of Dual Redundancy without us.
Oh my God. Don't cut to... Hey, John's got it on speed dial right here. We've got an episode.
But I don't know. Netflix said like language like this has been in contracts for years. Like it's allowed the company to make the voice of one actor sound more like the voice of another in case of like a casting change between seasons of an animated production, which is like, I like how they're like, well, actually, we've had this forever. This is, it's like, I don't like this either. Like,
Yeah.
your excuse doesn't sound great here. Like, okay, so one actor does season 1 of a show, and then you're like, yeah, we're good. Let's just replace this actor. We got enough. We'll just do
You cost too much money. You're asking too much for season 2.
We'll get another actor that does your voice, and then, or maybe we'll just get a computer to do your voice.
Yeah.
We have it's just
Tom Hanks's brother will do it. That's it.
Yeah, but I don't know. John, should we be worried?
I mean, I think it sets a bad precedent. Because how long before you sign up for something and it's, oh yeah, we can use it in our next movie too, because we used you in this movie and you're the character, and then you're out of a job because they just make you like they made those people from Star Wars that had passed, and they CGI them in. It's like, how long until that happens to someone who's alive and maybe wants more money? They're asking for more than Netflix wants to pay. Like that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
I just think the unions are already kind of so far behind on this because this AI developed, like there's AI developed commercials. There's one with Charles Barkley, and I mean, he probably signed off on his likeness being used like that. But what I'm saying is, like, if a union wants to, be in control of things, they can't really be in control of things if it's already happening and nothing's in their contract. You know what I'm saying? It makes no sense.
Yeah, John, you brought up the Star Wars stuff, and it's like, it's like we saw with like Princess Leia, I think Tarkin in Rogue One. When these characters die, it's like they can be used later on because they have the technology. I remember hearing like when Donald Glover was promoting Solo, it's like, I had this full body scan where it's like they have like my face, dimensions, everything about me in this computer now. And it's like, they said they won't do it right now, but who knows, 10, 20, 30, 50 years from now, it's like, oh, well, we can have Donald Glover as a young Lando, in 2063. Like, I don't know.
Legally distinct Donald Glover.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I think you got to look to video games as like a big part of this, because with the imaging stuff that they can do on actors, and these are high profile actors they get for some of these video games. So I mean, some of these high profile actors already have their likeness already there that's AI generated or computer generated. So pretty wild.
Yeah.
But it's cool. It's cool to see when it's done well. It's just freaky.
Yeah, it's freaky, it's scary, it's exciting, it's everything. And Netflix is not the only group. Disney as well is, involved with AI. CEO Bob Iger was asked on an earnings call this past week about AI. He said, quote, "It's pretty clear that AI represents some pretty interesting opportunities for us and some substantial benefits. In fact, we are already starting to use AI to create some efficiencies and ultimately to better serve customers. Getting close to the consumer is a real goal of ours, but it's also clear that AI is going to be highly disruptive and could be difficult to manage, particularly from an IP management perspective." And he goes on, and then he also says, "I'm not prepared to be more specific." Yeah, I like how this is like interesting. It's like, oh yeah, like this could be really beneficial to us. A lot of efficiencies. It could really help us, but it's going to be causing some problems with our IP. We don't want our IP out there. It's like, oh, wait a minute. It's good for this aspect, but not for this aspect. Yeah.
Well, if they can figure out how to monetize the IP in this artificial universe, then they'll be all for it.
Yeah.
But until that time, they're not going to be rushing to it, I don't think.
Yeah, well, maybe Netflix is doing all this because they need a little bit more money, because Netflix lost an old income stream this past month. We're going to say goodbye to the DVDs. Netflix tweeted out, "After an incredible 25-year run, we've decided to wind down DVD.com later this year. To everyone who ever added a DVD to their queue or waited by the mailbox for a red envelope to arrive, thank you." First, like, good for them to claim DVD.com. Like, that's a
Yeah.
get
Mm-hmm.
to be able to get DVD.com. Second, John, do you know they were still doing this?
Every once in a while, I heard that they're still doing it. I was like, oh, that's weird. But yeah, it's one of those things that it's surprising that they would still do it. But there's still a red box in my shop, right? There's still it's out there. There's still people who do that stuff. So I'm not surprised they're closing it, but I can also see where there may be a want for it.
Yeah, I mean, what like a genius idea this was years ago. I mean, because it's just literally an envelope with you could have just put a 43-cent stamp on it, and it's like, oh, there it goes.
Yeah.
You just had to buy the DVDs, and once they kind of pretty much closed out Blockbuster, it's like, well, we got the DVDs now.
Yeah.
And I guess it was like for folks probably with like, the bad internet connections, out there. But it is a little worrisome because it is like another nail in that physical media coffin, where it's like now we're really at the whim of studios and their streaming license deals. Like, oh, I want to watch this classic movie. It's like, well, it's not streaming anywhere. You can't have it. It's like, well, you can maybe have gotten the DVD somewhere, an old copy of it somewhere, but nope. It's like if it's something with Warner Brothers Discovery, it's like, well, if something isn't playing that well on streaming, we'll just take it off the service.
Yeah,
and then it's gone.
Yeah, that's
you don't have it anymore.
That's what's annoying is that they're taking the content away, and then they'll hit you with we just added these, but we actually took off a bunch of content.
Yeah.
It's like the Disney Vault's going to come back. We're not going to see
We're going to get to that. That's a little tease.
Yeah.
We're going to get to that in a second.
Yeah, we're not going to see some of these movies for a little while unless we want to pay for them. And then we don't even have the physical copy. So do we really own it? It's like it's all just a Fugazi, Matthew McConaughey Fugazi.
Because I think we've talked about it on an old in and out point where it's like, okay, maybe it's like you went on Amazon, you bought it, Apple, whatever, Apple TV, you bought the movie. You might not own that. It's in this cloud. It's not really there. They could at any point take it, even though you paid for it. They could easily take it, but it's really hard to take away a DVD that's like in your home. Like, I guess I wonder if Netflix is going to be selling some of these, or maybe you just don't return the envelopes and they'll be like, yeah, whatever. Like, yeah, we're winding this down. You can keep the copy of Mr. Megorium's Wonder Emporium. It's okay. It's okay.
I know. Is it GameFly? I think it's a similar service to Netflix's DVD where they send you a disc and you send it back. Yeah. Every once in a while has a sale where they just sell discs and you could buy used games. So maybe maybe Netflix will take the same route and just liquidate what they can and say thanks, bye.
Yeah.
Well, do we know any numbers on how it was still doing?
I don't have anything.
Yeah, because they wouldn't tell us anyways.
Yeah. They were actually 1 billion minutes. It's like, okay. They always make up some 30 billion thousand seconds. It's like, oh wow, that sounds really good.
We estimate each person views the disc 40 times before they mail it back to us. So that's
yeah. Our discs travel like throughout all these different states at 1 second. It's oh my god, like they're just making up numbers. But well, I don't know. We're going from one service to two others that may be sort of turning into one. We're going to talk about Disney Plus. Disney Plus, they lost another 4 million subscribers in the first 3 months of 2023, marking the streamer's second consecutive quarterly drop after its first ever decline. So Disney is now rethinking a lot of their streaming strategy. The biggest news, Hulu content will be introduced on Disney Plus later this year in a one-app experience. And that's all we know so far. So it doesn't sound like they're fully combining yet. A lot of people, on the internet, you sound like, oh, Disney Plus Hulu, they're going to be one app. Not necessarily yet. We'll get to why in a second. But it's going to be in this one app experience. Maybe it's like that Paramount Plus with Showtime. Showtime is in the app, and then eventually it's just Paramount Plus without Showtime, but with Showtime content.
Yeah. And the price is definitely going to go up on this the minute that happens.
Oh, no, definitely not. It's going to either stay the same or maybe they'll make it even lower for us. Right?
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure they would.
Because they love us. Yeah, but
well, it's just like if you're a Disney Plus subscriber, but not a Hulu subscriber, and then your price goes up because of Hulu. It's like, wait, I didn't want this content anyways. This is a problem with YouTube TV that we've been having, So it's just,
well, yeah, I mean,
it's
and
really silly.
Warner Brothers Discovery is doing the backwards version of this, which we've kind of talked about. Like, so like Disney Plus or Discovery Plus is separate from HBO Max and the Discovery Plus mega app that they're making.
Yeah.
So you can still get, Discovery Plus on its own, because they were so worried. Well, we don't want to force the Discovery Plus folks to pay for content that they don't want. It's like, well, what about the HBO Max folks? Like, I don't want to pay for Discovery Plus. Too bad, you're getting it. It's like, you don't want to piss them off, but you want to, it's okay to piss them off. And here it's like with the Disney Plus and Hulu thing, it's like, well, yeah, eventually they're going to be combined, but it's like there might be folks where it's like for me, I have Hulu, I don't need Disney Plus, and it's like, well, you're getting it. It's like, okay, I guess, but at least right now it's like this one app experience, so it sounds like you could still get the other things instead of like this. It's like a different kind of bundling that they're all going to be integrated in there. And I guess like the pros of that, it's like, well, yeah, you can purchase what you want and need, at least at the moment. And it gives them like these like multiple revenue streams where it's like, yeah, people can buy Disney Plus, people could buy Hulu. And it's like, instead of forcing them to spend $20, like maybe somebody's more apt to spend $10 on this one or $5 on that one. And you're still making some money at least. Instead of not getting anything for the $20 service. But yeah, it's the main reason, at least right now, is that Disney Plus can't gobble up Hulu is because Disney doesn't actually own Hulu. Well, Hulu is a tile star in international markets on Disney Plus. Here, domestically, NBC Universal still owns about a third of Hulu. They still have a stake in Hulu. It used to be Disney, 20th Century Fox, NBC Universal, but then when they all had like pretty much a third of it, but then with the Disney Fox deal, they took that. So they have 2/3, but they don't have the other third. So for a while, it's like, well, what is Disney Plus going to do? Or what's Disney going to do? Are they going to sell their, $9.2 billion? Actually, that's Comcast's stake. Were they going to buy Comcast's $9.2 billion stake in Hulu? Or were they going to just sell their 2/3 to NBC, and then they could make it some Hulu Peacock amalgamation? But it sounds like, at least with this, we're leaning towards Disney Plus is going to be buying Hulu. Is that what you see as well, Kyle?
I mean, I just think it's wild that Disney is going to own so much, because I remember when you were just explaining all that, they own Fox and all that stuff. So it's just them dominating the market some more. So that's scary to me. But I mean, it's two behemoths anyway. So it's like, what's the point? But I wonder how the 2/3, 1/3 works in terms of content. Does that mean that prioritizes Disney's content or Disney Fox content more than NBC Universal? I wonder if NBC Universal even sees any benefit from the partnership. I don't know.
Maybe it's worth their while to have less Disney content, so people want to buy Disney Plus more. Like, And
we're starting to really see like stuff that would have been just Hulu, like even the trailer, which we'll talk about in a little bit. That was going to be just Hulu because it was like, I think originally a 20th Century Fox thing, but it was going to be Hulu. But now it's also going to be on Disney Plus at the same time. Like it's going to be on both services. And they've been doing that a lot with more maybe their teen adult content. Like they're letting it go on Disney Plus to kind of get people started getting used to that Hulu content on Disney Plus. But yeah, the whole thing, Hulu has been a nightmare. We've talked about it. FX on Hulu, but there's also the FX Tile, which is on Hulu, but it's not an FX on Hulu program. This is an FX program that is on Hulu. It's just madness. And so maybe eventually I mean, I could see the benefits of this, for some folks where it's like, okay, it's a one-stop shop. It's like you got Disney Plus for the kids, you got Hulu maybe for yourself, eventually the ESPN Plus, you got sports in there. It's like, that's all you need. You got this one service. But as we've talked about, sometimes when you have a giant thing that's controlling so much, they can jack that price up, and it's like, it's not so good anymore. But
jack the price up, and you're getting just whatever content they want to do. It's if there's no competition, there's nothing to kind of go against whatever content they're putting out. And I don't mean that politically. I mean that just in general, overall. It's so.
Yeah. So there's probably folks out there that are excited to get, this all one app experience to watch all their favorites, but not so fast. The CFO said, quote, "We're in the process of reviewing the content on our DTC services to align with the strategic changes in our approach to content curation." All that being said, in other words, they're pulling a Warner Brothers Discovery. They're yanking content off of their streaming services, maybe possibly licensing out. You can get some extra cash flow. You can license it out to whatever other service, Netflix, Peacock, whatever you want. Or maybe they're just avoiding paying the residuals to the cast and crew. It's like, okay, well, this is a low performer. We just won't show it. And
that would be another talking point leading to a possible SAG strike, because of that stuff too. That's a big deal.
Yeah. And you kind of mentioned it earlier, Kyle. This is the 21st century version of the Disney Vault marketing tactic. Back in the day, it's like, oh, you want this VHS copy of Aladdin? Well, you better get it now because it's going in the Disney Vault and you won't be able to get it. And then, 10, 12 years later, oh, the vault is open. Aladdin, you can now buy it. It's just like, I better buy it before it's gone again. This is what it is. It's like, oh, you better get your content when you can, because it might be back in the vault. And I don't know. But it's not only less of the old stuff, but it's also going to be less of the new stuff. The CFO also said, going forward, we intend to produce lower volumes of content in alignment with this strategic shift. And Bob Iger, the CEO, also said, getting more surgical about what we make.
Well, hopefully that would mean better content, but
hopefully,
and just video effects wise and all that stuff. Like, people think it's kind of a joke.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about the stuff with Marvel and Star Wars and the CGI and all the post-production houses just being overwhelmed with the amount of content that people are asking for and wanting, especially coming from Disney Plus, just alone. It's just, there's just way too much stuff. And, Bob Iger, again, had this long statement where he says, quote, "When you make a lot of content, everything needs to be marketed. You're spending a lot of money marketing things that are not going to have an impact on the bottom line, except negatively due to the marketing costs. But we were spreading our marketing costs so thin that we were not allocating enough money to even market them when they came onto the service. Coming up, Avatar, Little Mermaid, Guardians of the Galaxy, where we actually believe we have an opportunity to lean into those more, put the right marketing dollars against it, allocate more basically away from programming that was not driving any subs at all." So it's like, forget the little shows, that, we didn't have any faith in, but let's put all of our money and resources behind IP, Avatar, Little Mermaid, Guardians of the Galaxy. We're going to market the hell out of this. It's just like, great. But then it just sucks because it's like,
of course it sucks.
You had surprise hits, like even last year. Nobody thought of anything about the bear. The way they released it was just like a thrown up. But it become this whole thing. And now it's like, not only is it critically acclaimed, possibly going to be winning Emmys, but it's like, it's a huge show.
Yeah.
But that would not have been even on the radar. This would have been, the budget on the bear would have been the catering cost for the Mandalorian season 4. Like,
yeah. Well, it shows that people do like interesting, unique content. But it's hard to come by. I feel like a lot of stuff is being made, but not a lot of it's really good where I want or need to watch it week in and week out. Unless that's not your model and you dump it on me all at once and I feel overwhelmed. And then I'm like, I'm never going to start this.
Yeah. It's just, I like the idea of at least some curation. Like, all right, don't just drop everything at once. We just, just seeing what sticks, throwing it up at the wall and seeing what sticks. But like, I also I'm worried that like, yeah, we're not going to get anything original as we saw even today. We talked about it before we got on that like, okay, what are, Showtime's new series? We joked about millions, billions, trillions, which are all real, but it's like, oh, we're also going to add more Nurse Jackie and Weeds. It's like, okay, is there not one single original idea anymore? Nope. We're going to just go on to these shows that just have a name, just have IP based around it. And it's just, oh my God. Okay.
Yeah.
But all right.
And it's funny about like a show like Weeds where it went downhill. Like everyone agrees it went downhill, and then the Dexter. It's like they're known
it's Showtime,
properties,
Homeland,
and they were good for a time, but then it got bad, and now you're gonna do a reboot thinking that's gonna save it or be better, and it's just like, well, haven't we seen? It's kind of not great anymore.
Yeah, well. Talking a lot about Disney Plus. We're talking a lot about IP, and I guess this is sort of IP. It's the next movie that we're going to be seeing on Hulu and on Disney Plus. In order to talk about it, let's go to some coming attractions.
Here are some exciting coming attractions.
I gotta say, Dave, before you start, you faked me out on that so hard. I was like, wait, we're going back. And then I was like, what? Oh my God. I gotta do it now.
We are going back in time. I'm not sure what year it is, but we're going to be talking about Flamin Hot. It's going to be dropping on June 9th on Hulu and Disney Plus. And this is based on the memoir, A Boy, a Burrito, and a Cookie, From Janitor to Executive. And this film is directed by Eva Longoria, and it tells the story of a janitor at Frito-Lay who claims to have invented Flamin Hot Cheetos. Okay. So we saw the trailer. That's all we got. That's all we're basing this on. John, what do you think of Flamin' Hot?
It looked okay. I don't think I'm gonna be running to go see it, but it looks interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of lukewarm on it, I guess.
Yeah, lukewarm. That's not the spice level that they're looking for. They want it to be, what is it? What is like it's like a hot. Is it a good hot? Like, is
good
it
hot?
Yeah.
Bad hot. Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad hot, but it's not, it doesn't hurt.
It's a Cool
so
Ranch.
Good. Yeah, I'm in the Cool Ranch zone with it right now.
All right. But, yeah, I'm with you on this. I feel like there's been a lot of movies recently on like, on products, on it's just, you got Air, you got Blackberry, you got Tetris, you got all these like things, and now we're doing this now on Cheetos, and it felt, watching this trailer, a bit like more on the formulaic network TV movie paint by numbers side. Like the whole movie, I feel like, was boiled down into that trailer, and that was almost enough. And at least, like, I didn't watch it yet, but the trailer for Tetris, it looked like there was like Russian spies involved. It looked like espionage, and I'm like, oh, okay, wow, that's a lot going on, with this creation of that story. But is there enough there, Kyle, for you in Flamin' Hot?
I mean, it depends on the full story. I think we'll have to see the film to get it, but I agree with you, Dave. I think we saw the whole movie in this trailer, and that's what might stop me from watching it, because you said it broke it down bit by bit, and enough to bring back who I think is the star of this trailer, that little kid, and they get a couple of jokes with him, and he tells like from his reaction, we get what's happening here. So it's just that kid's the star of the trailer. But I am interested, but I don't, like John, I don't need to watch it day one for sure.
Yeah, the movie's just over 90 minutes. I'm looking at it like,
I mean, that makes it a plus for me, though.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. It's half
plus,
of what most movies are nowadays. It reminded me, like, even in the opening, it's almost like a bit of like the Goodfellas, where it's like the first person VO complete with that like pause. Like, it was like that meme where it's like, yeah, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation. It's just like, oh my God, like it felt very like old school like movie, and it's like, what year is this? And I don't know,
maybe they're doing that on purpose because it is back in that time, in that certain time period, I guess. Maybe.
But and there's some casting choices, like I feel like there's nobody in this film, at least for me, that's like a recognizable like A-list. Like there's some that are, I you got the Allstate spokesperson Dennis Haysbert. He needs some money from, maybe there wasn't as many commercials recently for him. You got Tony Shalhoub, Monk. You got Matt Walsh. I saw Bill Oakley for a second there, John, from Better Call Saul.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like you have a lot of like, all right, I like these guys, but like,
yeah,
it's not like it's
That's
not
not
Matt
enough.
Damon and Ben Affleck in
Yeah.
Air.
That's not enough to make it a must see.
Mhm.
Is what it boils down to.
Yeah. So it just felt like watching it. It just felt like pretty formulaic. And I'm still intrigued by it. It seems like a nice family story, but it just seems it's not like must see. And it like this definitely is a streaming Hulu Disney Plus movie. This is not
for sure.
But
I mean, at 90 minutes, it makes it more tolerable. I mean, you could watch it probably within the first few minutes and get a feel and be like, yay or nay on this thing. And then maybe if you watch it, the story hooks you and you may enjoy it. Who knows? But
we'll see though, because as we said, in 2 minutes we feel like we saw it. And I almost think this needs to be one of those things where it's like maybe even like a TV movie, 45 minutes, an hour with commercials or something. Like I don't know. Do we have really enough here for like how many? Because you can't like when they're cooking and figuring out how to make the Flamin Hot Cheeto recipe. It's like that'd be a great montage. But you really need the time. Like you need to stretch this out. Like we have to see every step here because you're not going to be able to just montage it up and be like, oh, here's the final product.
Yeah.
We need the real estate, but so that's Flamin' Hot. That's gonna be dropping on June 9th on Hulu and Disney Plus. So that's what we've talked about it. Like they're sharing some of their assets here. They're kind of getting you ready to expect more stuff on Disney Plus.
But it's not Hulu on Disney Plus.
No.
It
has nothing to do with FX for this one. I believe it might have been a 20th Century Fox film, which the FX probably has something to do with Fox, but again, it's
it's 2/3 Hulu on Disney Plus.
Exactly.
The first hour is
And another 40 minutes is Universal. All right, that is it for Flamin' Hot. We're going now to go really back in time, so send us back.
Back in time.
We're back, baby.
Gotta get back in time.
All right, we are back. And we're talking about White House Plumbers, the series premiere, The Beverly Hills Burglary. And it was May 1st when this actually dropped. Since this recording, actually, episode 3 will be airing in the next hour or so on HBO Max. Or actually, well, I mean, in a week, it'll just be Max. I got to get all my terms right. Everything's changing here.
At the time of airing, this is currently
exactly.
HBO Max.
Exactly. But this tells the story of Watergate masterminds and President Richard Nixon's political operatives, E. Howard Hunt and G. Gordon Liddy, played by Woody Harrelson and Justin Theroux. They accidentally overturned the presidency that they were actually trying to protect. So it's a real life story here with two real individuals. All right, a lot to break down. I have some thoughts, but I want to start off with John. John, what did you think of White House Plumbers?
It was okay. Another Cool Ranch rating. Maybe a little bit better than Cool Ranch, but not much.
Is this how we're rating our films now?
Cool
by
Ranch,
Dorito flavor,
nacho cheese, spicy hot.
Yeah, I mean, I can see what they're going for. They're trying to make it like they're bumbling idiots, a little bit more of a humorous take on it, rather than a like American story, whatever that series was, where it's like all serious. Like this is trying to be a little bit more, aloof with it, but it didn't. A lot of it, not that it didn't land, because it was funny, but it wasn't funny in a way that got me like into it. It was just funny, like, oh, yeah, cool. Like it didn't go anywhere, and I know we're gonna talk about it, but considering the cast they have,
Mhm.
it didn't pack any punch, unfortunately. So I could see it be something where if it was on, I probably wouldn't turn it off, but I'm not seeking it out, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. On paper, I think this thing should have worked. HBO, Harrelson, Thoreau, and a White House satire directed by not only a Seinfeld writer, but the Veep showrunner, David Mandel. It's like, okay, Washington politics, satire, supporting players. You got Gary Cole, Toby Huss, Ike Barinholtz, Rich Sommer. Like, there's so many folks in this
Mm-hmm.
thing. And it's like, well, maybe it was too many cooks or too many plumbers. It was just too many people and too many different things clashing against each other because it didn't work for me either. And I know, Kyle, before we get on and we text, what we're covering each week. It's like, oh, I'm only going to be able to get to one episode. I could have gotten to another episode. I didn't want to. So
Yep.
when you said you only saw one, that's all I saw too, and which is unfortunate. I was really looking forward to this. Obviously HBO has a lot of faith in it. They're premiering it right before the Emmys eligibility timeline. Got big stars in here, a lot of promotion, but it just I have some issues with it. And before I get to them, I want to hear what Kyle thought of it.
I totally agree with you guys. I had total mixed feelings about this show, which is sad because they're all perfectly fine. But that's what it is to me. This whole show is just fine. Like it's good, and the writing can be clever, but the jokes don't hit
Yeah.
like they're not laugh out loud funny. There's some moments that are funny, and I like Woody Harrelson and Justin Theroux, but it's just it can just be just perfectly fine. Yeah, that's like really the only way I can describe it. I mean, the production elements are there. But I think with the story, I mean, I think we're somewhat all familiar with the story, and it doesn't seem to lend itself to any kind of governmental stuff, that we haven't had before, or that we haven't seen done in TV 100 times before. So we know the story. It's like, why are we doing it? We know everything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'll say there's like some stuff I really know with Watergate, and there's other stuff I don't know at all. And I feel like
Mhm.
there's stuff in this show. I'm like, wait, what are we doing here? Like,
Yeah.
what was this mission? What were
Yeah.
like I almost needed like the Michael Scott dumbed down, like tell me like I'm five version at
Mhm.
points, but then there's other times where like with this, like these guys are 5-year-old Michael Scott, like
Yeah.
bumbling characters here. And there's points where I never really connected with our two leads for I guess multiple reasons, some more superficial than others. But like first, I'll just say the accents. Like I found Woody the most distracting, even though Justin Theroux is like more his accent's more absurd to it. But like maybe it's just because it's Justin, he's behind a mustache. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I feel like Woody is like just doing this kind of like growl Batman voice, like it's just very like I just can't see it. Like it's just not connecting. It's just not working. It almost feels like it's 80 yard. It's like it's not right. And so you got that. And then also I feel like it's like the joke's on them, which is fine, but they seem to be these bumbling idiots, but everyone in front of and behind the camera is going out of their way to show that. And it's like I don't need like this humanizing backstory, but I do need a little bit of their psyche, a little bit of their reasoning. Give me at least why do they feel the need to do this? Like it just feels like they're these one-dimensional clowns, and I can't attach to that because I don't have any like what's their real motivation, drive? Like I'm having a hard time attaching to that, and maybe it's fine for like a movie, but like for an hour each week for 5 total hours, it's exhausting to just be like, haha, clowns, haha, clowns. These are bumbling, haha. Like it's I need a little bit more to actually care about the characters. But
and I feel like they try to have some like human elements with I'm thinking of Lena Headey and Woody Harrelson after the dinner, after the absurd dinner.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah, I think so. I think they tried to humanize him with those moments, but I can agree that the characters are a little one note. I probably put that to the first episode, and they want to get across how much of a bumbling idiots these guys are. I don't know. That's my only justification for it, possibly.
It's fine. They might actually be this, bumbling, but it's like, it's like we're looking at it, from years later with, probably, I know David Mandel, I believe, probably very like liberal and, like has a lot to say, with certain groups. And it's just like, yeah, we're going to really make fun of these two, folks on the opposing side. And it's just like, okay, like I just needed a little bit more. And some of the jokes, I felt like there was too much of like repetition of the same type of jokes, where there was like multiple times we got the joke of like they can't hear each other, whether it was first like with the walkie-talkies, come again, come again, and then it's like as with the Hitler record at dinner, where it's like, can you turn it down? What? Down? What? It's like, this feels like a joke from I Love Lucy, like in that we're still doing it multiple times in 2023 in one episode. I don't know, that was too much for me. But any actual funny moments to you guys? Anything that stand out that was like a funny little aside you want to bring up? Stunned silence.
Yeah, I'm trying to think offhand. I kind of put me on the spot.
I had two, and you can think of it while I'm going through them. One, I thought the opening card was humorous, where it's like, the names of which were not changed to protect the innocent.
Yeah.
And then it's like, because they were all found guilty. Like, I was like, okay, that's a funny little, joke with all those disclaimer cards at the beginning. But then I think the best moment was when, I guess, our heroes got to be a little bit smart over even a dumber group of associates when they're talking about their raid on an office building, and they scattered pills everywhere to make it look like druggies, raided the place. And it's like, well, why would these drug addicts bring their own drugs to a spot looking for drugs and then leave said drugs at the scene? It's like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. Like, so like that was a moment where it's like we actually had our protagonist be like, yeah, you guys are dumb. Like we saw them be at least a little smart for a second. And I think that like what helped it, because if they had a little bit of brains in this situation. But
I just can't believe, I'm just thinking back to some of the scenes that they had. Rich Sommer, I think is the guy's name, but he was there for like half a second, and next thing you know, he's kicked out, and it's like, wait, what is happening? So they got him for like a day player just to come in for,
I guess,
half an
everyone wanted
episode?
to work on this. It's the HBO show from directed by the guy from Veep, and you got Just Throw, Woody Harrelson. It's like, oh, this is going to be something. Watergate. Here come the awards, and But I will nitpick one more thing. Maybe John will pick this up. I was distracted by, there was multiple needle drops of the same song. A couple times they used the same song. I was like, you guys don't have a budget for your soundtrack? Are you going back to the same songs in the same episode? But one of the songs was Crystal Blue Persuasion. They played it twice, and I'm like, that's Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
It's like, you can use other songs, but it's like that song, I feel like it's synonymous with Breaking Bad.
It's way too soon to be doing that. Like,
so to use it twice in one episode, little much, guys. But that's just my nitpick of a complaint. But all right,
they would say you're Breaking Bad homers. They love it too much.
Yeah. But any other thoughts on White House Plumbers before we wrap it up?
I mean, the fact that I can't even remember any memorable, funny moments from it is just sums it up for me. It's just okay.
It's just okay. And you just watched it. I watched it like 2 weeks ago, and I'm
I watched it 3 hours ago, and I can't think of anything.
Wow. So it sounds like we're all out on White House Plumbers.
Yeah,
we're not going to be continuing that on HBO Max, whatever it is at this point. But we do have a few things that we're watching, possibly enjoying, and we'll briefly talk about them in quick checks.
Quick check.
All right, and I'm going to actually start tonight because we're going from the White House of the was it the 50s, 60s, 70s? I can't remember the exact date of Watergate on the podcast, and we're going to 1999 to 2006 because I'm talking about the West Wing. I recently finished all 154 episodes of The West Wing, which aired on NBC back in the day. And when I started this, a few years ago, it started like during the tail end of the Trump presidency. So it was kind of really weird watching this. And it was kind of hard to get into for a little bit because it's a very optimistic, feel-good world that they created.
Mhm.
We're going to do the world good with the politics that we are doing. And it's like, oh man, what dream world are we in?
Yeah.
What sci-fi fantasy show is this?
Yeah.
But you're watching it, like every huge cliffhanger scandal that they had on the show. I'm like, yeah, that's a Tuesday. That's a Tuesday morning in 2019. Like, big deal. Like, who cares?
Yeah, we've seen this before. Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm joking. The show is still one of the best written network series of all time. It has the Emmy Awards to prove it. And the first 4 seasons are really strong. I mean, Aaron Sorkin's at the helm. He's just delivering, episode after episode. You got this great ensemble cast, and he leaves at the end of season 4, and you can really actually feel it in season 5. Season 5 was the hardest season to get through, and maybe it's just they're trying to figure out what they want to carry over. You got new showrunners involved, and it's also like they're in this post 9/11 world where 24 was such a strong ratings performer at the time that it's like I feel like they really kind of try to lean more into like the foreign policy stuff, which I don't think is their strong suit on the show. Like, I think the show really excelled when it was the dialogue, it was the West Wing, but like all the stuff when they were in like the Situation Room, it's like I kind of zoned out. It's just, it didn't help that most of the time you didn't see any of the action because it's just on the screen because we don't have like the budget or whatever for it. And so it's like, I feel like that didn't work. But when it was like domestic issues at home, it's like, okay, I could really latch on to this and really get involved. And the last 2 seasons, season 6 and 7, I think it really turned back around, especially, I guess it's a slight spoiler, but if you kind of do the math of how the show starts and the years of the show, it's about an election storyline. And the show brought in 2 huge charismatic stars that at points you're I'm kind of fine if either of these guys win. Both are viable candidates. They're both so great. I would take either one in 2023. One of which actually was very like eerily like pre-Obama, before Obama ran, because it was in, I guess, 2005, 2006. So there was a lot of overlap with slogans and like just character. It was kind of weird watching it. But these seasons really leaned into one of my favorite characters, Bradley Whitford, his character of Josh Lyman. So maybe because they really leaned into that character, which I really like, it really helped to make those last 2 seasons really exciting for me, especially the election storyline. There was a lot. There was points in those final 2 seasons where it's like, we weren't even in the West Wing. We don't even have, outside of like maybe 2 people in the opening credits in this episode. Like, where was Martin Sheen? Like, it almost was like pivoting in a way. It's like, well, maybe after the Bartlett administration, maybe this could be the show. Maybe we could go this way with these different actors. And so with all that being said, since it was such a big ensemble, some characters definitely got the short shrift towards the end. I can think of Josh Molina's Will Bailey. They kind of fumbled and didn't really know what to do with after Aaron Sorkin left with that character. By the end, Richard Schiff's Toby, they kind of, I could see why he's was unhappy with some of the stories he got towards the end. But I'm glad I stuck with it. I definitely, it was like some highs, some lows, but overall very high. And one of the things I did was I listened to the West Wing Weekly podcast to go along with it. They did this podcast, episode by episode, and I would actually really recommend it because I feel like with some podcasts, not this one for sure, but some podcasts like The Office Ladies, or like some of these, there's so many ones now about like, oh, I was on this show in the 90s and now there's 2 actors from it and let's talk about it. There's so like, pretty much every show has this now. And I feel like on most of them, they're always like, this person was so great. It's so great. Oh, this storyline, amazing. And it's just like, it's very like, I don't know, too optimistic, too positive about everything. But the West Wing will be like, yeah, this was a good episode. And they'll say why. But no, this episode just doesn't work, or this doesn't hold up, or like, yeah, what was going on with this choice? This doesn't make sense. Like, it was actually critical. And you had, Josh Molina, one of the actors on the show, was there. So, he wasn't like, the star of the show in every episode, but he was there on set, supporting player, to know all the ins and outs of what's going on. And they got a lot of the cast involved. So it was kind of cool to actually listen to it through like a critical lens as I was going along. But yeah, so The West Wing, it's on HBO Max, which will now be Max soon. Check it out. 7 seasons, 150 some episodes. Yeah, that's it.
I just always remember there being a lot of concern about speeches on that show.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Important.
like always worried about a speech, and it's like, oh, we gotta rewrite this speech. I'm like, who cares about this speech?
Yeah, they did one episode, which it's interesting, like looking back on it, but like some stuff worked, other stuff, like I wish they did it a little differently, but they did one episode that was a debate episode, and it was actually done live. So like it was like a live debate.
Okay.
But like it's interesting because in that episode, it literally was the 2 new characters on the show, but they're still A-list, talent.
Yeah.
But it's like none of the other actors were there. And it's like, I wish that we could have had them in during commercial breaks or something, having a little powwow and stuff. But it was kind of cool. Like, it was a live debate. It was a play.
That's cool.
Yeah. So.
But also, I don't remember the exact seasons, but I think Aaron Sorkin wrote like an entire season of West Wing, and I think Sports Night was the other show at the same exact time.
It's insane. I mean, not only to do,
because they weren't like 10 episode seasons. They were like 24 episode season.
Yeah, the scripts were always like late. They were always like, it was just chaos. And I think I don't know for sure the timing of things, but there was a lot of stuff going on in Aaron Sorkin's life to power through these scripts.
Yeah.
And
I thought you said delivered through.
Oh, well, I see what you did there. But but he delivered. He really delivered with some great stuff. So
yeah.
All right. Well, that show was on NBC, but your show, Kyle, is on NBC's Peacock. What a transition. What would this character be on The West Wing? Let's talk about Bupkis.
Okay. So I watched the first episode, and of course we start off with him VR, jerking, masturbating to VR porn, and then his mom comes in and you do the rest of the math on that one. But that's how we start off, and I'm like, really? Okay.
That was a very innocent description of what happened.
I'm trying to keep it PG-13, man.
Think of the worst thing that could happen in that scenario. That's pretty much what happened.
Hey, at the rate this is going, this may end up on Disney Plus, so let's keep it PG-13.
So, we later meet Joe Pesci, who is Pete's grandfather, and it's all based on kind of Pete's life, but certain facts and stuff have probably been changed or whatever. And so we get this this thing where they need to create a good time for his grandfather because they need some boy time together, basically. So Pete thinks that he wants to hire a prostitute or do something nice, so he hires a prostitute. But then Pesci brings his brother along, and then who's Brad Garrett, and Brad Garrett ends up in the room with the prostitute.
What's the age difference on Pesci and Brad Garrett?
I don't know. But so Brad Garrett's in with the prostitute, and I saved the quote because I couldn't believe it. It said, Pete needed to provide the thrust for Brad Garrett because of his hip dysplasia.
So wait a minute. Do you guys end up watching all of Jury Duty?
No.
Yes.
I was going to say.
All that was available.
Was this some of the... What is it? The soaking? Is this what we're going with? This James Marsden?
It was
pretty. Out of bed?
It was pretty much that. Yeah, pretty much that.
Oh my god.
And so it was a little over the top. But But I will say, I mean, I know John watched the first episode. Do you want to go? I watched the second episode, so I'll add on to John.
No, I don't want to say too much. It was your quick check, but yeah, I put it in chat earlier. I was the opposite of impressed. It did not do well for me. Between him leaving fluids on his parent and assisting his uncle in relations with a prostitute, didn't do much for me.
It sounds like, I mean, I didn't end up seeing it. Is this just like pilot episode, gross shock stuff to, you know, be like, oh, look at us, you know, look at what we're doing.
Possibly. But I will say in the second episode, because there's an edit at the end of the first episode that was really funny. And I was like, okay, I'll continue. I'll watch one more. And the second episode actually has a lot more like heart to it. And Bobby
a show.
Yeah.
You explained the
I
first
know
episode
it's
to
wild,
me.
but
episode 2 has a lot of heart.
Yeah,
feel good.
Well, the thing is in the second episode we get a younger Pete who has to go to like his aunt's wedding 20 days after 9/11, after his dad had just died. So it's like all this comedy is happening, but it's under like extreme bad circumstances. And then we get Bobby Cannavale, who's just fantastic in this episode. And there's 2 jokes about music in the second episode that are perfect. One is about Cotton Eye Joe, and this next one is about Creed, because his uncle, who's the groom, needs a second to like, you know, go do whatever. So he brings Pete along and puts him in a car, and you can tell he's kind of having a hard time because he's doing like coke or whatever. And he turns around to Pete, and Creed is on. And he's like, I don't care what they say about Creed or that Christian stuff, but man, this song still bangs, or something like that. And it's just like, it's like a perfect line. And so we get a Creed joke and a Cotton Eye Joe joke. And I thought the second episode just had a lot more heart. And I enjoyed it a lot more than the first episode, for sure. And then at the end of episode 2, we get actual photos of the wedding event and Pete when he was that younger. So there's a lot more to the second episode than the first one, for sure.
Interesting. Yeah, I really wonder if it was kind of like first episode, the shock and awe of it to get people like, oh, look at what we're going to do. Because like if you start off, I mean, it sounds like the second episode was a much better episode.
So I really liked it. Yeah, it was good.
So it's an interesting thing that they did here. Yeah, you mentioned there's obviously a lot of comparisons. I mean, this is kind of Pete Davidson's life here. You got the Larry David Curb Your Enthusiasm kind of aspect to this, playing like a version of himself, but a lot of the details are the same. Do you think there's enough of a life story here? I mean, I think he's 29 years old. I mean, he already had a feature film made about his life. Is there enough, I think, here for a series, you think, Kyle?
I mean, sure. It seems like he leads a pretty wild life, and I think in the show he has some kind of drug addiction later. So I don't know. Maybe we'll learn more about him. Maybe it'll be more humanizing for Pete. I don't know.
Yeah,
I learn about his boat purchase.
Oh yeah, the Staten Island ferry. Maybe. Is Colin Jost been in an episode yet? I see this cast, and it's like Bobby Cannavale, as you mentioned, John Mulaney, Ray Romano, Charlie Day, Al Gore. Okay. But I mean, even Joe Pesci, I am shocked. He's in this. I mean, Marty had to beg him like with Robert De Niro, please do The Irishman. Please come back from your retirement and do this, you know, Oscar film, The Irishman. He's like, I don't know if I want to do this, but he ends up doing it. Yeah. And this, he's like, I'm signing up. Let's do it. Pete Davidson Peacock show. I'm in. It's just like, okay, I guess.
Maybe he saw the other cast. Maybe he has a good relationship with them. Who knows?
Yeah. But
that's right. How did Jim Jeffries get Brad Pitt on his show? Sometimes these actors, they like other people. So it's like, hey, if you're ever doing something, like, I'll be in it.
Yeah, I'm just picturing like Joe Pesci watching like Pete Davidson's like characters on SNL, like the
Yeah.
Chad, okay, like that character, and be like, I love this. I gotta
That's
work
it.
with this man. But all right, maybe yeah. All right, so that is Bupkis. It sounds like Kyle. Are you gonna watch any more?
Yeah, I might tune into a few more.
Okay, all
I
right.
mean, it's
Yeah.
only 8 episodes, and I enjoyed the second one.
All right. So that's that. John, what are you gonna end us with?
I'm gonna talk about Like a Dragon
Mhm.
Ishin. I'm gonna have two sides of this. One is gonna be a more meta discussion, and one is gonna be a more gameplay and story discussion. So, and forgive me, I have some names written down because Japanese. It's this game's entirely in Japanese, so they have English subtitles, but all the stuff is in Japanese and names are in Japanese. So, it follows the story of Sakamoto Ryoma as he takes alternate identity as Saito Hajime, who is a real life samurai from history, as Japan ushers in the Bakamatsu period, which is a period of growth and government change as they started opening up to other countries and allowing trade and stuff like that. So this kind of more takes place right before that and the segue into that. This game originally was released in 2014, Japan only, because again, it's very heavy Japan history, and they kind of thought US wouldn't get it. And after being asked for 9 years to release it, they finally did. And it has kind of a little bit of a remaster. So they took the original game and they removed the rendering engine for the graphics, and they replaced it with Unreal Engine 4, which is a more modern day graphics engine. And so you kind of have this mix of a little bit older textures, but some nicer lighting style and stuff like that. So it was a very interesting effect. It wasn't a complete remaster from the ground up. It was kind of a half and half. So not something you really see super often. I think for the most part it worked. I think it let them cut a lot of development time off by reusing all that. But they also made some weird choices, like the gameplay was for the most part a solid 60 FPS. It had some shader compilation issues, but they kind of resolved that. But then when you went into a cutscene, they would limit it to 30 FPS, which made no sense to me. There have been some mods to fix that. Some of the mini games are timing based and thus are stuck at 30 FPS. You really can't make those 60 very easily without retiming a lot of stuff and messing with the game. So there's some weird stuff like that. I believe the console versions ran at 60, but I'm not 100% sure, so it was a weird choice. They also...
Is it really noticeable?
It is, actually. I mean, my monitor is 144 hertz refresh is what I usually try and play stuff at.
Mhm.
So the reduction down to 60 I can notice, but then even further down to 30,
Yeah.
and it wasn't a consistent 30. It was a kind of the frame pacing, which is a separate metric from...
It's always weird when they like jump between frame rates, because as we like complain about in Avatar 2 of just like you could tell like when they jump around, it's just it throws you off before
and
you
you
get used
could
to it.
100% tell when they swapped from like cutscenes that were capped at 30, and sometimes the lead up into a cutscene where you're not controlling the character, but it's still like a beginning of a cutscene would still be 60. So you'd be going, and then all of a sudden you'd kind of have the brakes put on you, and you go back to 30. Again, have been some mods that fixed that on PC, so that's nice. I kind of started doing that maybe halfway through the game once it was brought to my attention, but so that all was kind of a little unfortunate. Historically, the Like a Dragon, formerly Yakuza games, would be done in their in-house engine, the Dragon engine, but they decided to try Unreal, partially because of some staffing changes and partially because they wanted to do a remaster of an older game. And the Dragon engine is really good at having like dark, reflective, nighttime, wet cityscapes in the rain and stuff. And a lot of the Ishin takes place in open air, like daytime markets and stuff like that. So it kind of made sense for them to change the rendering engines. Onto the story side, it's a classic Like a Dragon or a Yakuza story where there's a lot of intrigue and mix-ups and espionage and all that. What's very interesting is the original development of this game came right after a different game, and so all the characters are the same player models from the other game. So you almost have who in the Yakuza games, the main character who you see on the screen, whose name is Kiryu, it's that same voice actor, it's the same character model, just as if they were in the previous, in ancient Japan. So it's very interesting. It's almost like those characters are playing these characters. So you have almost like this: the real life guy plays a character who plays a character. So it's very interesting. It was kind of cool to see like their personalities from the main game bleed into this, but it worked because that's how it was. The actual like gameplay and sword fighting was pretty cool. You have your choice of just using hands and fists, using samurai swords, using guns, or using what they called I believe Wild Dancer, which was a combo of a sword and a gun. So you would do all sorts of spins and shooting and all. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the gameplay, and I'm glad that they ported it over. I mean, it's something that fans of the series have been asking for many years, and I hope there's another one that they did in feudal Japan as well. They haven't ported over because there's 2 of them, and I'm hoping that they see the success of this and say, all right, we'll do the other one too, but we'll see.
All right. So, and what's this on again? What console?
You can do this on any of the current gen PlayStation, Xbox, PC, Steam Deck. It's all certified and ready for the Steam Deck. So any of those, worth picking up. It usually goes on sale for a pretty good price at this point since it's been out for a few months. So if you're a fan of Yakuza, it's definitely worth checking out.
All right. So that's it. That's all of our quick checks this week. Our next show. It's going to be on Monday, May 29th. We've been doing the every other week thing. But when we come back in 2 weeks, it's a huge episode. Just pretty much 2 topics, 2 shows. That's all we're going to be doing. The series finales of both Succession and Barry on Max. It will be Max by then, for sure, at that point. Not HBO Max, but Max. We've discussed the season 4 premiere and Connor's wedding episode of Succession. We've done the first half of Barry, so you can listen to those in our off week next week. But then we're breaking it down, the full final season, the full series, the finale, everything for Succession and Barry. So a big one coming up. Make sure you're following us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, the blog, dualredundancy.com. And again, we're going to be live on Twitch, twitch.tv/dualredundancy, 8 p.m. Eastern, Monday, May 29th for those. I want to do a quick shout out to TikTok. We're just 2 or 3 likes shy of hitting 1,000 likes over across our videos. You know, we started this TikTok thing just a few months ago, and it's been a lot of fun doing these little clips every week. We've been seeing a lot of support and a lot of views and a lot of likes. And yeah, again, if you're not following us on TikTok, definitely check it out at Dual Redundancy. And we're also on Twitter and on Instagram at Dual Redundancy as well. And you can follow us there and watch these little mini clips, mini episodes that we've been putting out on TikTok and social media. I want to thank both you guys for joining me tonight, for watching all of this content. John directing the show, putting it up on Apple Podcasts and on YouTube. I couldn't do it without either of you guys. Thank you guys so much. You are the White House plumbers. You are the Dual Redundancy plumbers of this podcast. Making sure.
Compliment or not. Hang on a second.
Yeah. The Richard Nixon to my White House plumbers.
Yeah, great.
All right. On that note, I'm David Allen.
I'm John Berwick.
And I'm Kyle Bridger.
And that's all we got for Dual Redundancy. Goodbye, everybody.